YouTube, what is going on? Welcome back to another Identity 5 video. Before we get into this one, according to the YouTube analytics, stats, whatever it's called, it does say that 70% of the people watching these videos are not currently subscribed. So if you guys are enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Without further ado, let's get into the video. And this one is going to be Season 24 Survivor tier list. We have a lot of changes in the meta, in the game, personas. There's a lot of things going on right now. We have a new Survivor composer that's being added as well. You know, with the new persona, obviously Flywheel is now knocked down a little bit because you no longer can get the knee-jerk reflex palette boost effect with Flywheel. So you have to have broken windows to have the palette boost and the window boost. So that's going to change around some hunters a little bit. Sorry, some survivors a little bit. Also, the hunters do have a little bit of a buff in that they have a trait that allows them to pick up the survivors 20% faster onto the balloons, which, for certain types of characters, aka harassers, little hint for how the video is going to turn out, that knocks them down a little bit as well. So we'll see how that ultimately impacts them in this video. So the 6 tiers, I don't know why I said 3. The 6 tiers we have in this video, 5 tiers. What am I doing? 5 tiers we have for this video are C tier, B tier, A minus, A plus, and S. C tier are kind of like the worst characters in the game, not really viable in tournaments at all, and I would not recommend them for rank as well. B tier is characters that are not bad situational in tournament, but not exceptionally good for rank as well. Wouldn't really recommend them for rank either. A minus are characters that are good in tournaments, good usually second and third rounds in tournaments, and also are characters that are good in rank, no problem. Actually for B tier as well, you can have like one of those in a rank comp at a time, but I wouldn't have more than one. A plus tier is characters that are very good. You can use them in any rounds of tournaments and are also very good for rank. And then S tier, the best characters in the game, obviously should be prioritized over most characters, considering they are banned the most by most hunters because of how strong they are. So without further ado, let's get into the first tier, just C tier, and the first survivor in C tier is Thief. Now Thief is, to be honest, any of these characters you can kind of use in rank, but I really wouldn't recommend it that much. But with Thief, Thief and Gardener are kind of around. It's kind of a toss-up which is worse. I'm actually going to say Gardener's a little bit worse. So we're going to start with Gardener here, now that I'm thinking about it. Gardener is really just, move that down there. Gardener is very weak. Because she doesn't, because good hunters will pressure you so much to a point where you're not able to use your bubble while you're in the middle of your kite. She's not bad if she's found first, because she can absorb a hit as long as she's found within 50 seconds. But good survivor teams, they're going to rotate, they're going to hide from the hunter. By the time the hunter finds a reliable, a viable chase target, the bubble's going to be already almost worn off, and you may not even be able to use it at all, which makes her also not very good against chip hunters such as Bonbon or Sculptor. She's not very good against wax artists because wax artists can get a lot of wax on her, hit her bubble, and the wax won't disappear, and then they can just immediately get her with 100 wax and hit her again right after. So that makes her weak there. She's not good against wax artists. She's not good against Dream Witch. And some people are like, oh, she can counter Bloody Queen because she can get her bubble. Well, I mean, yes, technically, but sometimes Bloody Queens can get the mirror hit off beforehand. And also, there's just way better characters for countering a Bloody Queen than a Gardener. So in reality, her bubble is not good. Her chair breaking is okay, kind of. You know, you can break a chair and make it so when the hunter fixes it, the survivors are consider the chair 10% longer, which slows down their time of death, which is a little bit useful in some instances, but in reality, it's not great. And on top of that, on pretty much every map, there's always going to be another chair they can share out, or they can just fix the chair, and it's very difficult to actually get survivors to struggle free with that. So that makes Gardener not very good, and if you're also breaking chairs, you're also not decoding, which means your cipher is just lower. So overall, Gardener is a C tier survivor. The next survivor in C tier is Thief. Now Thief as well is just he's a kiting character, but he has very limited kiting kiting potential. And he's also very specific to certain hunters as well. Certain hunters can do this thing called moonwalking, where you hold your ability. Any hunter that's a drag and drop ability, they can hold their ability so they face their like the hunter faces away from the thief but continues to walk after them. That's called moonwalking, and you can't flashlight them if they're doing that, right? So that makes it kind of bad. Also, hunters with fast vaulting, a lot of thieves will put their flashlights at a window. So when the hunter vaults it, they get stunned as they're vaulting the window after them. But if it's a hunter with fast vaulting, they can sometimes avoid that flashlight as well. So Thief is very specific to the type of hunter and is not good against hunters that have drag and drop abilities that can moonwalk. And unfortunately, that's what makes Thief a C tier survivor. The next survivor in C tier is Mind's Eye. Now, Mind's Eye is... I know there's going to be people in the comments who are like, Mind's Eye's so good, I'm so good at kiting with her. Let me tell you something very, very interesting. Are you ready for this? So if you're good at kiting with Mind's Eye, who is a very bad character because of her slow vaulting speed, then why would you not just play a character that has good kiting abilities? Now, there is an argument that Mind's Eye is a little bit better because of the adjustment, because now she can vault windows and vault pallets faster. But it still doesn't make her that good because all other survivors also can do that. Okay, so Mechanic, for example, is just way better because Mechanic recently got a buff where she only vaults 15% slower instead of 30. And if you add that to the new ability, it brings it up to 0. So she vaults at essentially 0 debuff. Whereas Mind's Eye is still vaulting 30% slower, increased by 15, makes it so she vaults 15% slower. But that's still not good. That's still a slow vault on top of that. Hunters will just bring quenching effect, and what that does is it reveals the location of all survivors on the map after 50 seconds. For those of you who don't know, you should know this by now, but if you're new to the game, I totally understand. Maybe you don't know it just yet. That is a viable hunter trait, and as soon as they use that trait, after 50 seconds into the match, they'll teleport on the Mind's Eye and kill her very quickly because she has very limited kiting abilities, pretty much none. Of course, you can't tap the cane, which will slow down hunters' interaction speed, such as vaulting or pallet breaking. However, it's not that good. It only slows them down by like a half a second. It really doesn't make a difference at all. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, it makes no difference in reality. And it's just not very good. If you want to play a decoding character, there are better characters such as Mechanic, even such as Postman with the decoding letter. I would recommend those any day over a Mind's Eye. So because of these things, Mind's Eye is C tier. She's not a good kiter. If she gets found, she goes down quickly. And a lot of players are like, okay, well, I can just hide early game with Mind's Eye. Maybe the hunter won't bring quenching. That's a big maybe. And if you hide early game, then that means you're not decoding, which means you're losing out on the main reason you bring Mind's Eye is for that decoding speed. You see what I'm saying? So there's and then on top of that, with the new spawn system, if you're in peak tier 7 or higher, not peak tier, champion tier or peak tier, the hunter will see where each survivor spawns with the new spawn selection. So if you're at a higher tier, then that makes on Mind's Eye even worse because then the hunter sees where she spawns and can go directly to her and kill her. So Mind's Eye, C tier character, not strong at all, unfortunately. Would not recommend her in rank or tournament. I'm actually going to make a separate video explaining even more detail, going into more detail on that because for some reason, so many people still think Mind's Eye is good. Yet if you look at any other region in the world, China, Japan, the big competitive regions, they never use Mind's Eye for pretty much anything. It's very rare. It's very rare. So Mind's Eye, C tier character. The next character in C tier is Lawyer. Now Lawyer is a very good, don't get me wrong, Lawyer is a very good beginner character. Because he has he can't get terror shock, so that's a big thing. That's very nice. When he gets a hit, he gets a veteran speed bonus, which is very nice for transitioning away. And he can use his map to see where the hunter is, which can be very useful. He can use the map to gain vision to help you start to understand the game more when you're in lower tiers. As you get to higher tier, Lawyer becomes very weak because he doesn't really have kiting abilities as well. Of course, you know he can't get terror shocked, so that's nice, and he gets a speed boost when hit. But in reality, that's not really kiting abilities. That's just, I mean, I guess it is. It helps you kite a little bit longer, but realistically, it's not great. So yeah, because of these things, Lawyer is C tier once you get to mid tier or higher. But he is a good starting character. If you're newer to the game, I would recommend playing Lawyer as your first character. But after you get to tier 4, 5, or above, so that's Mammoth or Griffin, you should stop playing Lawyer completely and learn a new character. So Lawyer is C tier character. The next character in C tier is Lucky Guy. Now, Lucky Guy, I'm going to try to go through a lot of these lower tier characters quickly. They're not really worth explaining for the most part, but we'll try to get through them quickly. So Lucky Guy is C tier, pretty self-explanatory. His item is not guaranteed. When you get that parcel, you try to wish for like a flare gun. It's not guaranteed. A lot of time, you'll end up with a syringe sometimes, and it's completely useless or whatever. On top of that, the time you're stopping to search a chest, you're losing out on decoding time, so your decoding progress will be slowed down. And even something like a really strong item like a flare gun, The stun with a flare gun is less than a coordinator's flare gun stun. Coordinator's flare gun stun is longer, whereas Lucky Guy's flare gun stun is a lot shorter. It's just so short. I think coordinator's like 30% longer. So Lucky Guy's flare gun stun is 30% slower, which is shorter, which is just not good at all. He does, of course, get a speed boost when hit, which is nice, veteran's bonus. But besides that, not much to work with. Characters that start out with their items, like a Perfumer starting out with 3 perfumes, or Mercenary starting out with 3 elbow pads, or Magician starting out with 3 wands, 3 illusions. That's way better than wishing for them from a chest, because one, you get less items. You get, 1 illusion, 1 elbow pad, whatever. And on top of that, once you use it, it's done. You use your lucky parcel, then you gotta search a chest, which means your cipher progress is getting slowed down. And it's not good. In reality, it ends up being a very weak character. So Lucky Guy is C tier. The next character in C tier is Painter. Now, I know there's going to be people who are going to be mad about this, but I assure you guys, Painter is a very weak character once you get to higher tiers. Again, not a bad character for lower tiers, for starting out, because hunters don't know how to play against him yet. But once you start to get to higher tier, Painter is very weak, because good hunters can simply change their camera angle and just walk around the painting, and they won't look at the painting. So I know you're like, oh my god, I kite so good with Painter because I put down a painting and the hunter looks at it and then I make distance and that's so awesome. But no, it really doesn't work that way, because again, once you get to higher tiers, once you get to playing against more skilled hunters, they will easily just look around the painting, they'll change their camera angle, not look at the painting, and there's nothing you can do about it as the painter, and you just wasted a painting and it's useless. On top of that, you also have to see the hunter's face for a few seconds before you can get your painting as well, which is also not very good, because if you're going out of your way to look for the hunter's face, you're not decoding, which means you're losing out on, wait for it, Cipher Rush. So it's really not an ideal scenario. Of course, you do have that the chair time, which is nice. If you get rescued before or after half, it'll just continue. The chair will continue of when you were rescued, which is useful, but overall, it doesn't make up for the fact that Painter's kiting abilities are very limited and weak against strong hunters, and that's what makes him a C tier character. Moving on to the next tier, which is B tier. The first character in B tier is Explorer. Now, Explorer is B tier because I totally losing my thought process here. The biggest issue with Explorer is that if you spawn into the game and your page is across, he's luck based, and your page is across the map, you have to travel all the way across the map to get your page, and you lose out on a lot of decoding progress, and it ends up not even being worth it. Now, if you get lucky and you spawn near your page and you're able to get your page, then that's great, because then you can just decode, Cipher Rushes everything, and you're able to continue from there, which is, that's obviously really useful. But if your page is across the map, it's not good. On top of that, if your page is where someone's kiting, that's also not good. Or where the hunter spawns, that's also not good, because as Explorer, you never want to get found. So that's a problem. Now, he is good against some hunters. He's good against hunters like Clerk, because he can instantly pop Cipher Machines, and the Clerk can't manipulate the cipher, right? So that's pretty beneficial. And he's good against Photographer as well, because he can pop ciphers before the photo world ends. But besides that, he really doesn't have a lot going for him other than that. He's not good against Dream Witch, because she can find him very easily. She's very fast, and when she gets near a survivor, it'll show the purple mark over their head so she can see where he's hiding. If he's not good against hunters that bring wanted order, because if he ever does get wanted order, even if he goes into small mode, you can still be seen by that hunter. So it's not good. So Explorer overall is low B tier. Not bad against Clerk, which makes him not C tier. It brings him up from C tier because he's good against Clerk. But besides that, not much else going for Explorer. He is a B tier survivor. The next survivor in B tier is Doctor. And Doctor, not much to say about Doctor. She takes a hit. She can heal a quarter, which is nice. But against chip hunters, that's very bad, because they'll just chip her and then get a basic hit and she's dead. Now, she does get a slight speed boost when chipped, so that's it's a little bit beneficial, but overall, it's not really enough to make a huge difference in reality. She is good against hunters like Photographer and Mad Eyes, but unfortunately, those are very weak hunters that not really weak necessarily, but they're not great, and you never really see them in high tier or competitive gameplay overall in tournaments. So overall, Doctor is just a B tier survivor. Would not recommend her. In tournaments, she's pretty much never used because she's very bad in tournaments. And in rank, I wouldn't recommend her either. Actually, even Explorer is probably better in reality. In certain situations, Doctor's better against something, of course, like a Dream Witch, but Explorer's better against something like a Clerk. So overall, Doctor is just low B tier. She's not very strong. I wouldn't really recommend her in tournament or rank. She doesn't really have a lot going for her, and she's a B tier survivor. The next survivor in B tier, now this one I'm not 100% on because he's a new character, but from when I've played with him thus far, I think this is where he probably will end up going based off of, again, this is not 100%, but that is the new survivor, Composer. Now, Composer is a decoding survivor. You know, obviously when you're using Composer, it's like you're playing Guitar Hero, right? It's the Guitar Hero survivor. You know, you gotta, or the piano tiles, or whatever you want to call it. You gotta hit the notes with the buttons, and you can increase your decoding speed by 0.25% every time you do that. And you can change the level, obviously, to build it up faster, and you can get your decoding up faster, which is nice. So I guess if you're good at piano tiles or Guitar Hero, then maybe this is a good character for you. I don't really know, but overall, he's not that strong. His kiting is not very good. He's good against hunters that struggle with, how do I explain it? He's good against something like a clerk because, you know, you can make distance against a clerk and make it hard for her to catch up, which is good. Keeping distance against clerk is very important. But he's not going to get something like a wax artist because wax artist can just shoot the wax at you even if you're really going in your fast mode. Then it's a 50-second cooldown, so the wax can kill you quickly. He's not going to get something like a dream witch because she can just patrol you and your ability is pretty much useless then. And Wax Artist and Dream Witch are two of the best hunters right now. So that makes him not very good in that instance. On top of that, he's actually not good against Clerk in terms of his decoding, because if you're focusing on using your Guitar Hero piano tiles ability, then you're not focusing on the... It's very hard to pull off of the cipher in time, while when the hunter, you know, the clerk looks at you and records you to slow down your decoding. So in reality, his kiting's pretty good against Clerk, but his decoding is not good against Clerk, in reality. And on top of that, yeah, he's just not a very good kiter against other characters, such as Wax Artist, such as Dream Witch. You could argue, oh, he's meant to be a decoder, so his kiting doesn't have to be good. Well, the problem is it does take a pretty large amount of time to build up that percentage, even if you put it on level 3, and, you know, try to build it up very fast and you're very good at it. Even then, it's still pretty luck-based, because sometimes you're gonna get like a bunch of fast notes in a row, and it's very hard to click on all of them, and you'll miss some, and it's gonna slow down your decoding by 20.25%. And it's like a gamble. He's a very gamble-y survivor. He's not that consistent. His kiting is not that good. So it's sort of like Mind's Eye in a way. It's like if you get found, you're not kiting for an exceptionally long period of time. And of course, you can build to 20% maximum, which is not bad. But overall, why would you not just play Postman? Postman can send a decoding letter. It gives him, now that he's, even with him being nerfed, it gives the Postman himself a 10% increase and the person he sent the letter to a 10% increase. So overall, you're still increasing your overall team decoding by 20%. And on top of that, Postman has better abilities because he can give a dungeon letter. He can, which opens the gate faster. He can give a rescue letter, which he can help rescue in that manner. He can give kiting letters to help your teammates get speed boosts, get vaulting boosts, whatever it may be. And he also has the Postman dog to help him make distance, which overall is a more useful ability than Composer, because he can also use it to help support teammates too. So yeah, because of these things, Composer is just a lot weaker than some of the other decoding characters. And in my opinion, he'll be around mid-B tier. But, again, we don't really know yet. We haven't really seen him used too much. And I haven't had a whole lot of time to test him. But from when I've tested him thus far, he seems to be around a B tier character. The next character in B tier is Perfumer. Perfumer, not much to say about her. She struggles heavily against ship hunters. She's very good against specific hunters such as Geisha and Bloody Queen. But besides that, not very good. Patroller... on Dream Witch is very strong against her. Wax Artist is very strong against her because he can just freeze her, and you can't perfume that off. She's very good against single hit hunters that don't have freezing abilities. So as long as it's not an not a Wax Artist, not a Patroller Dream Witch, not a Bonbon, not a Sculptor, pretty much not every main meta hunter in the game, then maybe it's gonna, then maybe she'll be pretty good. But besides that, yeah, she's just not, she struggles against a lot of the main meta hunters currently, which does knock her down to a mid B tier. She's good specifically I would not really recommend her in rank as well because of this, because you don't know what hunter it's gonna be. In tournament situation round 3, if you know what hunter is probably going to be incoming, then you can play Perfumer to counter. For example, if you know it's probably going to be a Bloody Queen or a Geisha, then Perfumer is good. But if you're in a situation where you're in rank, you don't know what the hunter is going to be. It could be a bonbon, could be a sculptor, whatever, or could be a wax artist. It's not worth it to ban those hunters because then, that doesn't really, because they're not necessarily like, there's better hunters to ban. But, it's not worth it to ban those characters for playing Perfumer, is what I'm trying to say, because then it just brings down the rest of your team. You're banning a hunter specifically so you can play one character, but then that makes it so your teammates are going to have to deal with an even stronger hunter like a Bloody Queen that you should be banning, or like a Clerk, or even a Dream Witch, because, if you're banning Bonbon and Sculptor, you're still getting a Dream Witch, maybe. Potentially. I don't know. Right? So overall, Perfumer is a B-tier survivor. She does have good rescuing abilities. To be honest, she's better rescuer than she is kiting, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's something to keep in mind. The next character in B tier is Cowboy. Cowboy he's always been around B tier. Like, he's a good kiter. He can create distance by lassoing Cypher Machines or pallets, and he gets that speed boost as well, which is nice. If survivors die in a corner area of a map away from a chair, he could potentially help them struggle, but it is kind of difficult. Excitement also counters him. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much that's all there is to say about Cowboy. I mean, he can sometimes help survivors struggle or lasso if you get a nice lasso off. But a lot of hunters will just drop to play around it. On top of that, his kiting abilities are all right. You can lasso to get yourself some distance and get speed boost, which is nice. But overall, a character like Patient is just better. Patient can hook himself into very strong kiting areas. He can hook himself up walls, up buildings. Hopefully you guys don't hear my dogs barking in the background. And overall, Patient's just a better kiter than Cowboy is. But Cowboy, he can support, he can harass a little bit. So, he's not a bad character overall, but he does have a 10%, of course, decrease in decoding, and it's even slower if you decode with a male survivor. So overall, Patient doesn't have to deal with that, and that's what makes Patient a lot better than Cowboy. Cowboy is a B tier survivor. The next survivor in B tier is Wildling. Oh my god, there's so many survivors we gotta get through here. Okay, anyways, Wildling. A lot of the rank Wildlings in NAU, I'm gonna be very blunt here, are really bad, and they don't know how to play Wildling properly. They don't know what they're doing. They go for harass pretty much the entire game. They don't decode. The reason why you play Wildling is so you have an unchaseable target. So if the hunter wants to go to your Cypher Machine and find the Wildling, it forces them to leave, and the Wildling can communicate where the hunter's going to the rest of the teammates, so they can leave their ciphers and hide accordingly, which slows down the hunter from actually finding anyone worth chasing. So that's what makes Wildling good. He also, late game, he can easily clutch a dungeon on his boar or clutch out an open exit gate against a detention hunter. He is not played so he can go harass the whole game. That is not why you play Wildling, especially because of the new trait that allows survivors to allows hunters to balloon survivors 20% quicker. Now Wildling's even weaker. His harassment's even weaker. It wasn't already good before. Now it's even worse. So Wildling is not meant to harass heavily. He's meant to be an unchaseable target. Okay? So that's something, you guys, for those of you who play Wildling, please keep that in mind. Please decode. Please do not over-harass, because if you're doing that, you are throwing the matches. I assure you, you are throwing more matches than you are saving. You're making the game a lot harder for your teammates than you are helping, right? So decoding with Wildling is crucial. But overall, his decoding is very slow, so that's what makes him kind of B tier. His decoding was a little bit faster, and he did have that unchaseable factor in him, which obviously you can't catch him on it. Most hunters can't catch him on boar. That would make him probably A-. But because his decoding is so slow, that makes him a B tier survivor. The next survivor in B tier is Novelist, and Novelist is not really allowed in tournaments because he's very buggy. So in rank, he's like not bad because if the hunter goes, he's not good at kiting, because when you control the hunter, they'll just when you control the hunter, they control the Novelist. They'll just walk the Novelist after you, and you don't gain any distance. And gaining distance is a huge part of kiting. But what you can do is you can control the hunter when someone goes for a rescue or when you go for a rescue, and you can walk the hunter away from the person that was rescued to help them rebound kite. Now, there are better characters for stunning the hunter or pushing them away, like Entomologist Bees or Coordinator Flare Gun or something like that. But Novelist can do this, and that's what makes him B tier. Besides that, switching control with survivors is not bad in rank. Maybe if you get a bad kiting teammate, I don't know, and they let you switch and you're a better kiter, you can kite for them. I mean, maybe. But in tournament, a lot of players are all they're all around the same skill level in reality for the most part, or they should be in most instances. So That makes Novelist not very strong there. Of course, you do get a speed boost when you do the control thing, but overall, it's not a great ability. So overall, Novelist is just a B tier survivor. The next survivor in B tier and the last survivor in B tier is Prisoner. Prisoner is almost to A- tier. I know you guys want him to be higher. He's getting there, but he's not quite there. Of course, he did get that buff somewhat recently where he gets his shock, back after 60 seconds, which is actually quite useful. But besides that, it's still not good enough. Prisoner loses decoding progress when he sends progress to other cipher machines, especially if the ciphers are far away. So that makes him very weak in that manner. If he's downed or chased first or put on a rocket share, he doesn't really have anything going for him. For example, if Mechanic's chased and she's down, if her bot's in play, she can still decode and promote Cypher Rush, whereas Prisoner cannot. So Mechanic obviously is just a better decoder in that instance. Of course, Prisoner can connect across the map and finish Cypher machines, helps teammates finish Cypher machines quicker, which is not bad, but you're also not really gaining speed because he's still not getting a lot of progress on his first Cypher, if you know what I mean, because he's sending a lot of it away. So, overall, it's a decent ability, but it's not good enough to be A- tier. In the 60-second shock, it's not very good because an Enchantress is just way better. Obviously, she doesn't have the connection ability like Prisoner does, but it's just not great. On top of that, Prisoner gets his heartbeat 20%. The Hunter has to be 20% closer, which is very bad because Hunters can easily sneak up on Prisoner. And since he's a character that Hunters want to chase and get rid of early, since he's a decoding character, that's not good for the survivors, and that's what makes Prisoner B tier. Moving on to the next tier, which is A- tier. The first character in A- tier is Weeping Clown, and Weeping Clown has been moved up a little bit. Weeping Clown is very situational. He's good in that he can create distance against certain hunters. It's very good to be able to create distance like Weeping Clown can. Keeping that distance is very crucial. He can also stun the hunter. When after going for a rescue while they're in attack recovery, something like that, help the survivor make distance. He can stun the hunter while someone's on balloons to help them, get released from balloons and then maybe body block a hit. So there's a few little things that Weeping Clown can do that's pretty fun. He can pick up a survivor, help them make distance as well. But overall, it's not a great harasser. He's not great overall. He does have a decoding debuff. I feel like he shouldn't need a decoding debuff. I don't think he's necessarily that good where he needs a debuff. If he didn't have the debuff, that would make him more viable, maybe higher in A- tier. But overall, the debuff plus the ability to stun, but his stun's very short compared to other stunners like Ford or Coordinator or whatever. That makes it not as good. So overall, he's just a low A- tier survivor, but not bad. Still viable in situational scenarios in tournament, and also not bad in rank if used properly. The next character in A- tier is Coordinator. Coordinator, very self-explanatory as well. Coordinator has fast vaulting speed, long chair time, fast decoding. She's a rescue character that has normal decoding speed unless someone's on chair. When they're not on chair, she still has normal decoding speed, which is very nice. And she can help survivors rebound because after she rescues, she can shoot the hunter, stun them, allow the survivors to make distance, and making distance is very important against a lot of the hunters in this game. So that's what makes Coordinator good. She has a long stun with her flare gun, 30% longer than a Lucky Guy's flare gun stun. Again, increased vaulting speed, long chair time, normal decoding, and just overall a useful character. So a nice rescue character and just a solid A- tier character. The next character in A- tier is Professor. Now, Professor, he probably should be a little lower, but the only reason Professor is in A- tier is because he counters specific hunters like Geisha. Geisha is a common meta hunter, and Professor is very good against Geisha because Geisha goes for the dash, she goes for the swing, he uses the bubble, and it stuns her. She can't get that swing off. Geisha is all about dashing over a paladin, instant swinging at a survivor, but Professor can just stun it with his bubble. Or with his scales or whatever. And he can do it twice because he can use a scale. He can use the scale that he already has on him. He can also use the extra scale. And he can also drop them on the ground, which his teammates can therefore pick up, and then they can use that to help themselves kite a Geisha as well. So Professor is very good against Geisha. If you know it's going to be a Geisha player, Professor is very good. But he is also, unfortunately, very weak to other types of hunters, such as Wax Artist. Very weak to Wax Artist. Wax Artist can just stun them. Also Anne as well. Very weak to Anne. You can just stun them, hit them, and there's nothing they can really do against that. But overall, he is a counter to Geisha. Against Dreamwitch, he can kind of be okay as long as you're not being patrollered, I guess. I don't know. And he can be decent against Clerk as well. So he does have some uses against these single hit hunters. But hunters that swing very fast, it's harder to instant block, although he does slow down their speed with his ability, their swing speed with his ability, so that's useful as well. But the main reason why he is useful is he's a hard counter to Geisha, and because Geisha is a strong character in the meta currently, that makes him an A- tier survivor. And when I say strong counter, I mean a lot stronger of a counter than Perfumer is, and that's what makes him a lot better. Okay, moving on to the next next survivor in A- tier, that is Little Girl. Now, Little Girl is also very specific to certain hunters. She's actually pretty good against Clerk because, for example, if you have a Mercenary on your team, you can just combine with the Mercenary after you take a hit, and then the Clerk has to completely change targets. Like, Clerk cannot really chase a Mercenary because she'll just get kited because he just has elbow pads, and they have pages to help make distance. It's just, like, really hard for a Clerk to kill a Mercenary ever. So it kind of forces her to change targets. The goal with Little Girl is to absorb a hit and then combine with a rescuer like a Mercenary or a forward and force the hunter to leave them because it's such a hard target to chase. So she's actually pretty good against Clerk. She's pretty good against Dream Witch as well, because if the Dream Witch goes to her, she can actually teleport before, because you have to have Heartbeat. You have to have Heartbeat to prevent the Little Girl from teleporting, whereas with the Dream Witch, you don't get Heartbeat until she switches to the follower. So as soon as you get the mark that the main body's on you, you can just immediately teleport away. And as soon as this teleport started, the Dream Witch can't do anything about it, and you're able to teleport away and escape the Dream Witch that way. So she's pretty good against Dream Witch there. She's pretty good against Clerk in that instance as well. Against other hunters, not as much. Like, she's not very good against something like Geisha, because Geisha can easily chase a forward or a Mercenary. And yeah, but she is pretty good against, those hunters such as Clerk and Dream Witch, and that's what makes her A- tier. And she can also be pretty good against a Bloody Queen, because she can combine with the Mercenary. You can easily cut a Bloody Queen or a forward or something like that. Moving on to the next character in A- tier, which is... Sorry, I'm talking like super fast. I'm kind of losing my breath. Next character is Magician. And Magician is... He's like close to A+, but he's not quite there in my opinion. Magician is... He's good at kiting certain characters. He's good against something like a Clerk, because when the Clerk records him, if he uses his illusion, the recording actually gets removed, and the Clerk ends up wasting a recording because of that. He can also illusion to body block pallets, forcing the Clerk to swing and break them before she continues after him, which actually makes him a good kiter against a Clerk. He's not a bad kiter against a Wax Artist as well, because if you illusion in a narrow area, the illusion will actually block the Wax shot, so the Wax will have to break the illusion or go around it before he can continue to shoot at the Magician. And he's also just like he's also good against things like Geisha and Bloody Queen, because the Bloody Queen mirrors. You can illusion the swing. Sometimes the Bloody Queen can still get the hit, so it's a little bit risky. But against something like a Geisha, he can be very good because he can illusion Geisha dashes as well, which makes him very useful. So overall, Magician's actually a pretty good kiter. And he's also a big mind game character. If you're able to mind game the hunter and run in like an opposite direction of where you illusioned, and you trick the hunter that way, that can be very useful for making distance or avoiding hits. But sometimes the hunters will randomly swing and hit you as well, and they'll kind of guess where you go, and they'll sometimes get lucky and hit you. So that's kind of a Magician's slightly luck-based in that manner as well. But overall, yeah, not a bad kiter. Solid A-. When he's rescued from chair as well, he's invisible for 2 seconds, which could potentially help him rebound kite too. So overall, not a bad character, Magician. A-. The next character in A- tier is Toy Merchant. Toy Merchant is not A+. She's actually very good, but she's not A+ because she's very map specific. She's only good on big 2-story maps where you can use catapults to help survivors like get propelled into those 2-story areas. Or she can use her catapult to fly away, fly to those 2-story areas, or jump off the 2-story areas and fly away with her glider. I mean, that's pretty much it. That she's just good on those maps. So like Sacred and Lakeside and stuff like that. And Chinatown and I guess Ever Sleeping as well. Stuff like that, she's pretty good. But besides that, she's not good on maps like Arms Factory, Red Church, because they don't have those 2-story areas that she can utilize. So I would never really recommend playing her on those type of maps. She's also good with team comps where they use up their items. For example, something like Entomologist or Patient or Ford that can use up their items. Because then if she starts with a good item like an illusion or an elbow pad, she can throw it at them and help them. And they can pick it up and they can use it to kite later on. Whereas if you pair her with something like a Wildling or an Acrobat or a Prospector, they don't have items that run out. So, or a Priestess, they don't have items that run out. Therefore, she's not good with necessarily as good with those particular characters. So you have to consider those things as well. So overall, Toy Merchant, very map specific, which makes her A-, but not a bad character on maps that she is good on. Okay, moving on to the next tier, which is A+ tier. The first character in A+ tier, this character got a slight boost because of her adjustment. That is Mechanic. Mechanic recently got an adjustment where she vaults only 15% slower instead of 30%. And with the new ability, that allows you to vault 15% faster. It's the trait right next to Broken Windows on the far left of the Persona Web for Survivors. She actually vaults at 0 vaulting debuff, which means she vaults at a normal speed, which actually makes her pretty good. Because Mechanic's biggest weakness is that she was an easy kill because of how slow she vaulted. Now she vaults at an average speed, which makes her good. And with that, because she's now a somewhat decent kiter, I mean, she's not like good, she doesn't have any kiting abilities, but because she can kite decently if the player playing her is a good kiter, and she can put her bot into play, that makes Mechanic pretty good. Because with bot in play, even if Mechanic goes down, she's on the rocket ship, she can still decode with the bot, and it makes it essentially, so again, I say this in every tier list video, but it makes it so the survivors only need to do 4 ciphers to finish the game, because the bot can just finish 1 for them, and that's very useful, and that's what makes Mechanic an A+ tier survivor. The next character in A+ tier is Embalmer. Now, Embalmer, I wasn't really going to put him in A+, but recently there's been a lot of usage of Embalmer over in the global regions, such as China and Japan, because he's very good against good camping hunters. So things like Bonbon, Sculptor, he's very good against those types of characters, even not bad against something like Clerk, because Clerk doesn't really have map. She can't get around the map that quickly unless she has teleport. So if the Clerk doesn't have teleport, then his coffin can be very good to escape the grasps of the Clerk. But he's very good against camping hunters such as Sculptor and Bonbon, because you can just use your coffin to just get away, essentially, and you don't force your team. He's especially good. The best character that he's good against is Bonbon, because Bonbon has very good camping abilities. It's very difficult to rescue against a Bonbon, but he can self-rescue himself. And if Bonbon doesn't have teleport, he can coffin across the map, escape the Bonbon, and waste a lot of time that way. So Embalmer has a self-rescuing ability, which makes him a very good tying and winning survivor in some instances. He can also get the face of other survivors and use the coffin for them as well, which can be very useful in certain situations. For example, the person who's kiting against the detention hunter, you can put the coffin at gate. If you have their face, then you can coffin them to the gate when they get downed. And yeah, and you can get an extra survivor escape because of that. So that's what makes Embalmer an A+ tier survivor. The next character in A+ tier is Antiquarian. Antiquarian is actually not bad. She's pretty good against kind of like straightforward single hit hunters. So she's pretty good against something like a Geisha, because if Geisha dashes, you can stun them, and then they can't hit you for a few seconds, which means you can vault a pallet or a window and escape the Geisha. And every time she dashes, you can stun them. She can also get a 5% increase by trolling her little bamboo stick, which is pretty useful as well. And on top of all of that, she does have the flip ability, which means she can vault over pallets or windows without the risk of terror shock, which is very nice as well in certain situations, because it can kind of mess up the hunter's sort of game plan when chasing. On top of that, you can also use that to cancel Patroller Bite. Antiquarian can use the flip, cancel Patroller Bite, which can also be very nice. So she has a lot of things going for her. But the biggest problem is chip hunters can be a bit of a struggle for her. Wax artists can be a bit of a struggle for her, because they can still use the wax gun even when they're stunned and they can't hit you, essentially. But yeah, I mean, she's good against something like Clerk. She's decent against something like Dream Witch. She's good against something like Geisha. So she has versatility against some of these meta hunters, but she's also very weak against some of the other meta hunters, again, such as Wax Artist, even Bloody Queen, if you're not able to get close enough and stun them. So because of these things, she is a solid A+ tier survivor. The next survivor in A+ tier is Batter. Now, Batter moved down a little bit from the last tier list because of the new adjustment of the Hunter persona, where they can pick up survivors 20% faster. Now, Batter is still a good supporting character, no problem. If you hit a survivor with attack recovery, the Batter can then push as the attack recovery is running out to help that person make more distance. He can just push them. You can kite towards the Batter, you can push them away to help get them more distance that way. There's a lot of ways that Batter can be useful. His harassing when, survivors are going for a balloon pickup is not as good anymore, but he still has good support to help kiters. That's how the harassers are going to be used in this meta now, is helping the kiters kite instead of harassing when they're down and being picked up on balloons. And it's going to be like that for forward as well. We'll talk about that later once we get to forward. But yeah, Batter is good at helping survivors make distance and kite on their first kite or rebound kite or whatever. And that's what makes him an A+ tier survivor. The next survivor in A+ tier is Enchantress. And Enchantress, also very character specific, not good against Dream Witch, not good against Wax Artist, not good against Anne, not good against Bloody Queen, but she is good against Geisha, Bonbon, Sculptor, and Clerk. Because all of those hunters, Bonbon, of course, and Sculptor are chip hunters, so they add to her stacks very fast, which can help her build up to a 3-stack a lot quicker. Clerk is a single hit hunter that relies on literally only hitting. So as soon as the Clerk just gets close, you just stun, get to a pallet, and mind game. You can tight kite very well with Enchantress around pallets. You can stun as the Clerk walks into a pallet and double back and pallet stun them. Like, there's a lot of ways Enchantress can kite a Clerk. And also kiting Geisha as well. Geisha goes for a dash. You stun as they dash over to you, and you run through a pallet or run to the next pallet or window, and you make distance, and they can't get a hit on you. So Enchantress can be a good counter to those hunters as well. So while she may be very weak to things like Dream Witch, Bloody Queen, and Wax Artist, she's also very good against things like Bonbon, Sculptor, and Geisha, and Clerk, and that's what makes her an A+ tier survivor. She can also be a good harasser late game, although I would not harass early game with her. A lot of new Enchantress players make the mistake of following the hunter around the whole game. They lose out on Cypher Rush, and they lose games because of it. So Enchantress is very good at harassing when the Cypher Machine's almost primed, and you're trying to buy enough time for the survivors to pop that last Cypher, and that's what makes her A+ tier. The next character in A+ tier is Gravekeeper. Gravekeeper, just, overall very consistent rescuer. He's not good against chip hunters, but he is good against single hit hunters. He's good against Wax Artists because he can shovel off the wax. He's a good rescuer against Dream Witch. He's a pretty good rescuer against Clerk. He can be a good rescuer against Geisha or Bloody Queen. He's just very versatile. He can be used against pretty much all non-chip hunters as one of your main rescue characters. When you do shovel, when the hunter chases after you and they make you use your shovel and they leave you, you can actually get out of shovel and you'll still recover part of your shovel, which is very useful because then you can use it again later to body block a survivor or block a hit for yourself. And because of these things, just a solid rescuer against non-chip hunters makes Gravekeeper a good A+ tier survivor. The next survivor in A+ tier is Postman. Postman was nerfed recently, so he was knocked down a little bit. And that's the decoding letter is now 10% for the Postman and for the survivor that he gave the letter to instead of 20% for both. But it's still not bad. I mean, 10% increase for the Postman, 10% increase for the other survivor. That's still a 20% increase in decoding for your overall team decoding, which is very useful. He still has Dungeon Letter, which makes the gate open ridiculously fast and reveals the location of the dungeon to your survivor team, or to the Postman rather than the person you send it to, which you can then communicate to your teammates. He does have the speed boost letter, which he can use to give himself speed boost, which can mess up the hunter a little bit and help you kite better. You give it to teammates to help them kite. You can give them a vaulting increase speed boost, 10% faster vaulting increase. You can give them a broken windows speed boost, which can be very useful as well if they've already used up their broken windows boost, or they're bringing flywheel, or they have tide turner. So there's a lot of ways Postman can support there. He can also use the dog to help himself kite, or take put on the hunter if they pass by, chasing another survivor and help that survivor gain more distance because it slows down the hunter. So Postman is very versatile overall, very useful character, and just a solid A+, a pretty good decoder and a good support character overall. The next character in A+ tier is Barmaid, and you guys know how much I don't like Barmaid, but Barmaid is good. She's very good against Dream Witch. The ability to take a hit, use your drink. It's very, very difficult for Dream Witch to get a second hit within 20 seconds because they have to use a patroller. They have to send the leech out of range so it'll catch up, then use a patroller, waste a lot of time, and the Barmaid is the Dream Witch is almost never able to get that hit in time. So Barmaid just very good against Dream Witch there. She's very good against Clerk, because same thing with Clerk. If you take a hit against a Clerk has a very hard time of catching up and getting that next hit within 20 seconds, especially if there's good support with Priestess portals or Entomologist bees or forward stun or batter harass or Prospector harass. Like, there's just so many different ways you can support that. Or even Seer Owl if Seer's not banned. So there's just so many ways that you can support that. So overall, Barmaid is good against Clerk, good against Dream Witch. Not good against Wax Artist, because Wax Artist can just get a bunch of wax on her, then hit her, and then immediately wax her right after and get the kill. Not good against Geisha, because Geisha can catch up very quickly with her dashes. Good against Bloody Queen if she doesn't have Blink available, because she can take a mirror hit and then get the heal off before she gets her next mirror back. So she's good, but she's good against Clerk and Dream Witch, which are two of the best hunters in the game currently, and that's what makes her A+ tier survivor. The next survivor in A+ tier is Dancer. Now, Dancer is broken because Dancer has the ability to not only kite very well for herself by putting down slow boxes. Fast boxes aren't really that good, but they can help her increase her decoding. So she has like a little bit of a slightly decoding buff if you use the boxes. You can actually just pick them back up and use them again later. But the slow boxes are broken. The fact that you can literally slow the hunter down so much, you can what a lot of dancers will do. With the old Dancer meta, you would put the Dancer down, the Dancer's box in the pallet and pallet stun the hunter as they go to break it. But now what you do is you just put the box in the pallet and then throw the pallet over it. So then you force the hunter to break the pallet very slowly because they have a slow box on them. Then they break the slow box, and while they're doing all that, the Dancer can make a bunch of distance and have a huge bunch of transitioning distance. And then once she gets to a new kiting area, you just put another box down, throw the pallet down again. If the hunter tries not to break it and just play around it, you're just going to get kited because they get slowed down so much. And it's incredibly powerful. On top of all that, she can also use that to help her teammates as well. She can put a slow box in certain areas of the map, communicate to the teammates, oh, there's a slow box here with a pallet thrown down over it. The teammates can kite to that slow box. They can use that to kite, help them make distance, and it just kind of destroys the hunter. And Dancer is so good because of that. She's good against Clerk, Wax Artist, Geisha. She even can be kind of used against Bloody Queen because she can twirl away from the mirror and sometimes kite it out. She's good against Breaking Wheel, because even Breaking Wheel gets slowed down by the slow box while he's in wheel form. Dancer's just good against a lot of these meta characters. She's good against Bonbon, Sculptor. She's not good against Dream Witch because Patroller is just broken. Double Patroller is incredibly broken. But besides that, she's good against a lot of the meta hunters besides Dream Witch, and that's what makes her an A+ tier survivor. The next survivor in A+ tier is First Officer, and First Officer is actually really good because First Officer has the ability to rescue even at guaranteed rescue. He is a guaranteed rescue because if you use your watch, he gets that 5 seconds of tide turner. So even if it's a strong camping hunter like a Sculptor or Bonbon, or even like a Naiad or a Wax Artist or a Solver with double web shot or whatever. Like there's so many. It doesn't matter what hunter it is. He can get that rescue as long as he gets close enough to the chair, so he can get that rescue within 5 seconds. So First Officer is just very good because of that. There's really not much else to say. He just gets the rescue. He can also save at half health if he has a watch. He can use that watch, use the tide turner effect to still make the rescue. It's sort of like a mercenary at half health. You can still get that save off. Except First Officer can do it against a chip hunter as well because he can take as many hits as he wants as long as he gets that rescue within 5 seconds, which makes him just really kind of broke. So on top of that, he also has a 20% increased chair time. So the hunter does want to chase the officer to eliminate him. They also are going to have to consider that the chair time is going to be longer, which is even more annoying for the hunter to deal with. So First Officer is just a very nice rescuer and A+ tier overall. The next character in A+ tier is Psychologist. What am I saying? Psychologist. The next character is Psychologist. And Psychologist is very good because she just can take 3 hits. I mean, that's it. She takes 3 hits. And against single hit hunters, that's very good. Just any characters that I talk about this a lot, but any characters that can just like break the game in terms of taking extra hits are very good. Psychologist being one of those characters. She can take extra hits. As long as it's not a chip hunter, she can be very good against those type of hunters. She can also heal her teammates from across the map, which can be useful. For example, if you have a forward that's going for harass and they take a hit while harassing, then you can just heal them up and they can keep harassing or go for a rescue or whatever. Or if you have a survivor like a Gravekeeper that took a hit while rescuing, you can heal them up and they can go for a second rescue or something like that. So overall, she's just very good. She can take 3 hits. She can heal teammates from across the map. Pretty straightforward A+ tier survivor. The next character in A+ tier is Prospector. Now, Prospector has slowly become good because of Japan. A lot of these characters that are ranked high in tier lists are because of China. The China region has made them very strong in their IVL. But Prospector was made big because of the Japan players. They started using Prospector as a kiter, as a supporter, and he became, or even as a harasser, and he became high A plus tier because of that. The reason why Prospector is so good is if you kite by the Prospector Cypher, he can stun the Hunter to help you gain more distance. If Survivor is going for a rescue, the Prospector can stun the Hunter and help the person that was rescued get more distance. And overall, he's just not a bad kiter in general. So that's pretty much it. He's a good kiter with his magnets. He gets the speed boost when he goes by a metal object, such as a locker or a cipher machine. And he can harass as well. He can buy time. Buying time is very crucial. That's something Prospector can do. And that's what makes him an A plus tier survivor. The next survivor in A plus tier is Acrobat. Acrobat is just an incredibly broken kiter. He can ball through windows. He can put the slow bomb to make the Hunter vault slower. He can use the red bomb to turn off their abilities, and the mud bomb to slow down their walking speed. Absolutely broken. Not like broken, but very, very strong. Very, very strong. He can use the ball even to make distance when you charge it up, which is just very good. He can even cut up Bloody Queen mirrors because of that. He's just very good. He can also support if he goes for a rescue. He can use a slow bomb on the Hunter or the red bomb on the Hunter to help the survivor rebound kite. He just has so many things going for him. He can support, he can kite, he can rescue. He can use a red bomb and something like a bonbon to turn off their abilities, so that way he can get a free rescue. So you can't get stuff by the bombs. So overall, Acrobat A plus tier survivor, good kiter, good supporter, very good on Moonlight River Park as well because you can loop the platforms. Even with the nerf and the adjustment, he's still good in some of those areas, and that's what makes him an A plus tier survivor. The next survivor in A plus tier. The next survivor in A plus tier is Patient. The next survivor in A plus tier is Patient. Patient is very strong because he has the ability to create a lot of distance with his hooks. And that's very good against something like Bloody Queen, Sculptor, Bonbon, Wax Artist, Clerk, even against Dream, which in some instances, he can be used against pretty much any Hunter. He's not map specific necessarily, but he's better on some maps. Like, he's still good on maps like Arms Factory and Red Church, but he's very good on maps like Leo's Memory and Ever Sleeping Town and things like that, because he can hook himself onto like very strong kiting areas. Like Leo's Memory, he can hook himself up the stairs into Factory, or Ever Sleeping Town, he can hook himself into the 2-story areas, which can be very good. So he just has a lot of versatility on those maps. That's what makes him A plus tier. He can also double as a rescuer as well. He can hook towards chair and get rescues if he has Tide Turner. That can be very useful as well. So just a very good kiter and a very good rescuer. Doesn't have any supporting abilities really, but besides that, good kiter, good rescuer. A plus tier is Patient. The last character in A plus tier is Entomologist. Entomologist is a really good kiter and a very good supporter. The bees are really strong against a lot of Hunters. You can put them in narrow areas to slow the Hunter down, force them to break them. You can use the bees to support. She's very good against something like Clerk because of that. She's very good against slow swinging Hunters as well, that take a long time to... Because some Hunters recover faster after they swing. Clerk recovers fast after she swings, but it does slow her down, and creating distance against Clerk is very important. But Hunters that get slowed down a lot after swinging, like a Wax Artist, that can be very bad for the Wax Artist, and be very good for the Entomologist, or a Sculptor, or just anything like that. Entomologist can be very good again. So she's a very good supporter. When survivors go for a rescue, she can use the bees to push the Hunter away, help the person rebound kite. She can slow the Hunter down to help her make distance with her bees. She can push the Hunter away to help her teammates make distance with the bees. And because of these things, A plus tier survivor, Entomologist, good supporter, good kiter, and a very well-rounded character overall. All right, moving on to the last 4 survivors in the last tier, which is S tier. And the first character in S tier is Mercenary. And Mercenary is S tier because he's just a very good... he's just like the best, most consistent rescuer overall. He's just the most consistent rescuer overall. Mercenary even if he does get terror shocked, he can still make the rescue. Or even if he's half health, he can still make the rescue as long as it's not a chip hunter, because he does have that delayed effect, 15 seconds every time he takes a hit. It's 15 seconds before it actually activates on him. So that makes him very good. If he gets hit with the tension, he can literally open and exit gate, because then he has 30 seconds, because it's 15 seconds every half health. So then it's 30 seconds, so he can get the gate open all the way. On top of that, he has 3 elbow pads. Again, very self-explanatory. You can't really chase a Mercenary because of this. Overall, Mercenary is just very good. Very consistent rescuer. Very difficult to stuff a Mercenary. And an unchaseable character early game as well. And because of Mercenary's consistent rescuing, he's very good against single hit hunters as well, because he can rescue multiple times against them. That's what makes him an S tier survivor. The next survivor in S tier, this one actually was moved down a little bit. And that's Forward. And because of the new balloon trait, Forward is moved down. It's a lot harder for Forward to instant stun and rescue the survivor directly from balloons. So because of that, Forward is lower in S tier, still very good. He still can support teammates. You can stun to help the survivors make distance. You can still harass. Again, it's harder to get the instant balloon harassment, but you can still waste a lot of time. As Forward, you can stun on Chair if it's a good camping hunter, so you can get an instant rescue. If the Forward's half health, he can stun on Chair as well and still make that save. And he's also just a very good kiter as well. He vaults pallets faster, he throws pallets faster, and he vaults windows faster. And he also has that football to make distance. He's very fast with the football. Obviously, he can create distance against hunters that way. So a good kiter if he does get chased, a good harasser, and actually just a good rescuer overall. His harassment, obviously, on balloons, not as good, but he's still good at harassing to help survivors kite, and that's what makes him an S tier survivor. The next survivor at S tier is Seer. Now, Seer is, again, another self-explanatory character. However, Seer's very good because he can make it so the first kiter needs to take an extra hit to go down. He's a game-breaking character. He forces the hunter to potentially have to go for 3 hits to down that first survivor. So that's just very good overall because, again, you want to try to down survivors at 2 hits, and Seer makes it so if you're chasing like an Acrobat, which is already a good kiter, you got to hit him 3 times before you can down him, because you can choose the owl to absorb one of the hits. Now, Seer obviously isn't quite as strong as something like a Bonbon, a chip hunter, but you can also give owl to something like a Mercenary to help him rescue so he doesn't get hit, which means Mercenary needs an extra hit or an extra bomb chip to actually go down, which is very good for the rescue. It makes it a lot easier for Mercenary to save. So overall, Seer is just... he's just a very good support character. He's also not a bad kiter himself because he can, if he looks behind him, he looks at the hunter while kiting, he can farm more owls and he can use more owls as the game progresses. Now, the biggest mistake a lot of lower tier players with Seer make is they follow the hunter around and they try to look at the hunter to gain an owl during the match. You never really want to do that. You really want to do that while you're kiting, or if the game's almost done and you have to go for a rescue anyway. But it's not worth it to go off your cipher to go look at the hunter, because then you're losing cipher progress and you're slowing down cipher rush. But overall, Seer is just a very good support with that owl. And it helps the first kiter last even longer, which is very useful, and that's what makes him an S tier survivor. Okay, we're almost an hour in, and I'm kind of running out of breath. We're on to the last character in S tier, which is Priestess. And Priestess... Priestess is a very good character for many reasons. She has broken portals. You know, you use the portals to create distance. You can go through long buildings and get away from the hunter. It stuns them as they go through. You can set up portals for your teammates so they can kite through them and create distance. Again, creating distance is very important. Creates distance against the hunter that way. She can use a portal through a chair to stun the hunter and get a free rescue that way. She can get to literally halfway across the map by portaling through the long buildings on maps like Eversleeping Town and Chinatown and things like that, which makes her very good for those type of maps. She can help survivors get upstairs to 2-story areas with the elevator portals, the portals that go to from the ground level to a 2-story, up to a 2-story area. And on top of all that, she heals teammates faster. She herself heals faster. Her decoding and vaulting is only 10% slower, which is really not that bad considering how many abilities she has. And then on top of all that, she has the long portal, which when she goes through it, she does not leave an after image at all. And if teammates go through it, they can use that to get across the map, escape the hunter. If the hunter doesn't have teleport or there's no cipher machine nearby for them to teleport to, then the priestess, again, heals survivor teammates very fast. She can just heal the teammate that went through the portal very quickly, and they can escape the hunter that way. So overall, Priestess, very good support character, very good kiter, can be a good rescuer as well in certain maps, and is just overall has 3 of the main things that make up the game, of course with the exception of decoding. Still a good kiter, still a good supporter, still a good rescuer, and that's what makes her S tier, the best hunter in the game. In fact, a lot of hunters in tournaments have started to ban her first round. Even Dream Witches that would typically ban Seer have started to ban Priestess more instead of that Seer, because of how difficult it is to deal with the Priestess. She is S tier, the best character in the game. All right, at long last, that's going to wrap it up for the Season 24 Survivor tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate all your guys' support. As always, I'll try to get to uploading more videos. If you guys like the videos, always don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any comments or questions about the tier list, don't forget to let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to respond to as many as those as possible. Thanks for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you all in the next one.